I'm going to play a brief clip of Paul CDC Bombshell. Stand by.
Right antibiotic and what to do and avoid the respirators and use hydroxy.
Well, you remember when they passed that big bailout bill, there were incentives in there for hospitals to list COVID. There were financial incentives to put people on ventilators. They collected, I think, $30,000 for each person they put on a ventilator. So it's not to say they purposely try to kill these people, but the net result was they killed a lot of people and they got a lot of money doing it. But I think there are three lessons from this report that we can take away. Three very solid lessons. First of all, COVID-19, coronavirus, is far less deadly to healthy people than the governments, the media, anyone has ever said. Clearly true. Second of all, we should have protected the vulnerable more instead of actually doing things that made them more vulnerable and more susceptible to death, like putting sick people in the old folks' homes with them. The third, lockdowns not only did they not save lives, they actually killed more people than the coronavirus, all out, if you look at these numbers. I think those are three really important things. And I wonder now, and I've seen some things, and people are talking about litigating the destruction to society, destruction to people's lives from the lockdowns. Maybe if we get to that point, that'll be the next phase. But you wonder, like, you don't want to be too conspiratorial, but you wonder, what was the incentive? What do people never let a crisis go to waste? Let's look at this next clip. And I just threw this in here because it's pretty fascinating. I don't know what there is to it. This is the founder of the World Economic Forum. This is good buddies with Soros and Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab. He said, the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. Okay, no thanks, Klaus, right?
Right. You know, it does seem strange. It's hard to believe it's all a coincidence. And at the same time, the Marxist movement just got really energized. It was in line with and occurring with the coronavirus. So this is something that people notice this, and that the economic controls all of a sudden much further along than anybody ever dreamed, that they would be able to close down governments, close down schools. It just is so overpowering, which means that they knew what they were doing exactly, because they knew what we know, in that it's a philosophic fight.
Yeah.
And you have to convince people of certain beliefs. Our universities have been polluted for a long time. The school teachers have all gotten their lessons from the universities, and all of a sudden, everybody's involved. I would notice that, and you did too. In Washington, when we would try to explain non-intervention foreign policy or an economic policy, well, they all learned their stuff from the same place. There's only one university out there, except for a few exceptions to that, but they all learned the economic side. I can remember, I got really a little charge out of it. In the campaign, I've had some pretty well-known interviewers ask me in a friendly way. I think they were a little bit curious, and they weren't being nasty. They said, well, what is this Austrian economics? What is this free market stuff for business about? And yet, it's a significant philosophy. But they knew this. They've infiltrated, and it is bursting out. But guess what? In a little bit, we're going to be talking about maybe our side is bursting out and expressing themselves when you look at what's happening in Europe.
Yep.
Well, I'll just end it there. I don't want to go on too long. You can watch the whole thing. It's almost 30 minutes long on Ron Paul on YouTube.